What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Pod Scum. I am your host, Reckless Rex Ruger, a.k.a. the King of Sleaze, a.k.a. the Son of Glam, a.k.a. Diamond David Lee Roth Jr., and the hard science will be proving it very soon. There's Pops looking down on me. There's the Freddie Mercury puppet. His teeth are out in full effect, which means he's excited about tonight's episode, and so am I. Take one look, folks. You know that you are looking at the Son of Glam, the front man for the band, adored by a million fans. I'm the peanut butter to your jam, Mr. Wop Boppa Loo Boppa Wop Bam Bam Shazam. Hot damn. Oh, I'm feeling good. And more importantly, boy, am I looking good. Oh, had to get one more look in there. Ooh. I'm excited about tonight's episode, man. Just can't say enough about this band, man. I love what they do, man. I've had Eric on in the past. My first go around doing Pod Scum. I showered him with praise. As I recall during that interview, which came in at damn near 2 hours. So we had one hell of a great conversation, man. I've also been fortunate enough to have the guitar player, the great Michael Gilbert, on here, man. And I can't talk these guys up enough. In my opinion, not always, at least as far as rock journalism goes, and I'm going to beat them up a little bit here, I don't think, and unjustly so, always mentioned with the highest regard as much as their peers are. And maybe they would disagree with that. Hopefully they feel the love out there and they feel the warmth. I know they have legions of devoted fans. I hope that they understand just what an amazing band they are. And my guest tonight, an amazing frontman. And I know a little something about that. There's going to be a lot of amazing frontmen in this interview tonight. Pops is looking down on me. Of course, I'm the offspring of a great frontman. We've got the legendary Freddie Mercury puppet here, who in his own right, one of the greatest frontmen of all time. And our guest is one of the greatest frontmen of all time. And a guy that for doing extreme music, which often is associated with guys who do the vocals that can be barkers or growlers or screechers, squallerers, if that's a fucking word. This guy is a bona fide, legit singer. The guy is about as badass as they come, and what he does is quite unique. An amazing voice, an amazing range. Not quite as good looking as me, and I'm going to give myself one more look, and I hope he doesn't mind me saying that when he when he watches this back, man. But I mean, he just doesn't quite have the glam genes that I have. And I don't know if he has the stage moves, but I could give him pointers if he needs them. But I think he's doing all right, though. This being their 15th album that just came, a 15th album that just dropped. What are we here at right now? September 16th, 3 days ago. And 15 albums into an amazing fucking career, man. And consistency is really, I think, the name of the game with these guys. Just what they do. Boom. They just roll out consistently amazing albums, seemingly effortlessly. And, of course, they do have the incredible distinction of being the first, and to my knowledge, the only band that ever received a 6K rating on which generally Kerrang! Magazine, highly regarded magazine in the rock and metal world, usually only gives out 5Ks, which is, I guess, their equivalent to stars. But they gave 6Ks to Flotsam and Jetsam's 1986 album Doomsday for the Deceiver. This is back, of course, when they had a little-known bass player by the name of Jason Newsted, who ended up picking up his bass and going and playing in a little band called Metallica. But nevertheless, the Flots boys forged on, man, and they are great guys. I've had Eric on, as I said before. The last go around with Pod Scum, he came on here. We chopped it up for damn near 2 hours. I've been fortunate enough to have Michael Gilbert, the guitar player, on here. So these guys are not just a great band. great guys as well. And there's, yeah, obviously, you know that I don't edit anything. So there's me looking at my phone to make sure that my guest is coming in there. So you don't have to listen to me yammer and yammer and yammer on all night long. But I promise you, he is coming in here. And as I was saying, the 6K rating for Doomsday for the Deceiver, to the best of my knowledge, and maybe Eric, when he gets in here, will be able to further enlighten us on this. I don't think it's been done since. Certainly lots of amazing metal albums have come out, since 1986, but I don't know if any of them have had that, if Kerrang has heaped that praise on them. And our guest is here right now, so we'll fucking find out. I, of course, have been given 6Ks many times, but hey, that's Eric.
Yo,
How are you, man?
I'm all right. How are you?
It's great to see you, man. And I was just talking up before you got in here in my little preamble, and talking you guys up, talking up the illustriousness of the career. This the 15th album or whatever, man. And I think we talked about this the last time you were on here. And correct me if I'm wrong, and kind of hip the audience to this. I was heaping tons of praise on the still legendary 6K rating by Kerrang magazine for Doomsday for the Deceiver. Has anybody had that honor bestowed on them since? You guys were the first, and I think only, correct?
Yeah, first and only.
Wow. How do you like that, man?
Either that's a really cool thing, or the guy who did the review on Kerrang was just on something.
Maybe he was on crack with a capital K?
He could have been, yeah.
No. There's no way in hell that I'm going to impugn that album or say anything against it. And as I said in my little preamble beforehand, that's when the great Jason Newsted was still in the band. And, he obviously picked up his bass and went to play in a little band that everyone knows by the name of Metallica. So, not a bad gig, But you guys have forged that. When you look back at it now, man, can you really believe 15 albums?
It's kind of crazy. I mean, there's some songs on a lot of those albums we've never played and probably never will. So.
Yeah. But I was telling the audience before you came in here, though, that I feel like the name of the game with you guys, and I feel like, this is the case with a lot of the thrash metal acts, from that, especially from that 80s era. I feel like consistency is really the name of the game, like with you guys. You guys have been on a hell of a roll, and the albums, and I think of other bands like Death Angel and the Overkills and the Exoduses. It's just always amazing, consistent material.
A lot of bands from back in the era are really putting out some cool stuff.
Yeah.
The last Metal Church record was really great.
Yeah.
The new Accept stuff is really good. Everybody's putting out some great stuff. Overkill's putting out some amazing music. So it's a pretty cool thing.
Is the creative when you guys get together to make new music now, is the creative process still the same? And how much of it has changed? Is somebody coming in with the lion's share of these ideas? Are you guys getting together and creating collaboratively?
Guitar players give me somewhat of a finished song with some computer drums and stuff on it. And then I come up with some really cool melody lines I can come up with for them, at least for the verses. And then Ken gets a hold of them, and he puts actual drums on them, which make them 10 times better. Yeah. And then he starts rewriting my choruses because he's much better at it than I am.
Okay.
And so it's really, everybody kind of has their own job. And it's working out really great for us. There's a lot of choruses that Ken didn't touch of mine, but the ones he did, he made them so much better. It was unbelievable.
And I don't know if this is true, or not. Of course, you can obviously verify this, but when I was getting my notes together to talk to you, and of course, obviously, kids out there, don't believe everything you read on the internet. This is something I'm going to read to you that's from the internet. But is it true that this is the first time since 2001's album, My God, that the band has recorded more than one album with the same lineup? That's what Wikipedia is telling me.
No, I think we have the same lineup for a couple of the mid-career ones, but
Okay.
I'd have to really think about that. That could be true. I don't think so. I think there's 2 or 3 albums after High that were all the same lineup.
But this lineup, though, man, is really seems like it's really cemented right now.
Yeah, we're having a lot of fun. We're really enjoying the songs we're making, and we're getting a lot of really good reactions out of the rest of the world for it. So
Yeah.
we're I don't think we're going anywhere soon. You know what I mean?
And you know, we talk about the creative process, and I may have asked you this the first time, but ultimately, where did the Flotsam and Jetsam band name come from? Because you guys before that were, and I've got them down here: Paradox, Dreadlocks, and Dogs.
Right.
Yeah.
I joined when it was the Dogs.
Okay.
Jason Newsted came up with the Flotsam and Jetsam idea. He was reading a J.R. Tolkien book, one of the Hobbit books.
Okay.
And it was a pair of explorers who went out and to explore stuff and were never seen from again. They got lost. And he thought that was a kind of cool thing because he looked up the definition for it, found out it was trash and garbage from a wrecked ship. And it also came up with the definition of like homeless bag ladies, you know, people who live on the street. And we're just like, all of these things describe us to a T. So we're gonna go with the name. We didn't realize until later that a lot of people have never heard that term before. They have no idea what it is. They can't pronounce it. They're never going to remember it in a million years. And that has hurt us over the years a little bit. But, you know, I think we've been around for so long now that anybody who would enjoy our band pretty much has at least heard the name.
But I think a lot of bands that do your kind of music, though, often do have those very, you know, hyper violent names. You talk about like an Overkill or a Megadeth, or it's always something that really borders on, you know, very macho, you know, very aggressive. I think Flotsam and Jetsam, you know, really does kind of set you guys apart.
It's the weird part about it is it kind of sounds to people like made up words, like they're not real because they've never heard that term before, you know. And everybody's heard of the word over and kill. Everybody's heard of the word death and angel, and everybody, you know. So those aren't quite as hard to comprehend as this. People who have never heard that term before, they can't even pronounce the name. Well, FLOTSAM and what? How do you say it? You know? I always just tell them it's Flotsam and Brush'em.
And so you're here to denounce the fact that you had anything to do with Paradox and Dreadlocks. You're throwing your bandmates under the bus for those two names. And rightfully so. I would too.
They had some singer right before I joined that freaked out at a party because somebody put ashes in his beer. And he said he started screaming at people that ashes in their drink can kill witches. What are you doing? And I think that was his last night.
I gotta ask, you know, ultimately the album name and "I Am the Weapon" is badass, man. It really is. Who names? You know, who gets the privilege? I know it's a track on there as well, but who gets the privilege of saying, "Hey, this is not only a track, but you know, we're gonna actually call the album this"? Is that a band decision?
We usually try to use at least one of the song titles.
Yeah.
Most of the time, we try to pick one that kind of speaks a little bit out of each song, somewhat.
Yeah.
But in this case, it was going to be called Black Wings because the photo has Flotzilla with big black wings.
Yeah.
And it's one of the cooler songs on the record. So we were going to call it that, but once we got "I Am the Weapon" finished as a song and got it back from the mixing and everything, we all kind of agreed that that was just a cooler name for the record and that song was an animal. So we really had to change it to that.
And Flotzilla, I gotta say, has been making a lot of appearances on recent album covers too, man. You guys are really embracing Flotzilla. He's really starting to get his treatment, much like a Charlie or an Eddie on an Iron Maiden album.
Yeah, he's you know, his little story is kind of weird because he's He only comes out once every 1,000 years or so.
Yeah.
So nobody's ever really seen him that's alive now. And he lives in the bottom of the ocean, sleeps, hibernates for 1,000 years at a time. When he comes up, he's just hungry and mean and angry.
Yeah.
And he starts eating everything. It doesn't matter. Buildings, cars, people, cow, whatever.
I can
Anything,
relate.
nuclear weapon, anything he can get his hands on, he just eats it. If he
Yeah.
doesn't like it, he spits it back out.
Yeah.
But he has there's no agenda. There's no bias. There's no anything. He just sticks everything in his mouth and decides what he likes later on. And that's kind of the way we want to attack the world with our last few records
Yeah.
is, we just want to go out there and annihilate everything that's in our path musically. And anything that we don't like doing or that we don't like, we'll just spit it out.
For people that aren't great, for people that aren't great into reading into lyrics, obviously you can go on your streaming platform. You know, what I mean, you could follow along like with the lyrics or whatever. But sometimes people can obviously put their own spins on songs. They can adopt like what the songs mean to them. But when you guys write, what is the impetus like for the creative process? Like obviously there's so much shit in the world to constantly get pissed off about, to get charged up about. Where do you guys draw your inspiration from? Are you like a guy who watches the news and gets ideas, or are a lot of this stuff drawn from books, or when you're going to sit down and write lyrics, what's the well that you draw from?
First I listen to the song, and the first couple of images that pop into my head when I'm listening to the riffs, I go on like Google or something, and I just Google whatever popped in my head, and I start reading stories about it or definitions about it. And if something is cool in there, then that's what I'll kind of write about. If nothing's cool in that, then I go back to the song and listen to it some more. And the next couple of ideas that pop in my head, I'll just Google those and see what it's about. It could be anything. It could be a made up word that just popped in my head. I'll Google it and see if there's anything about it,
Right.
And once I start actually writing lyrics, sometimes it twists the meaning around to something that has nothing to do with what I looked up.
Right.
But that's where I start from anyway.
Right.
And then it's I like to try to keep the lyrics to where everybody could come up with their own idea of what it really means. If they want to, they can ask me what my original thought was, and it might be different every time they ask me, because I try to spin things around a little bit to where you can come up with your own idea.
It being an election year, and I don't want to take off on a tirade about politics, but are you very political, and do you draw any inspiration, or are there any undertones in these songs about anything that's political happening in the world?
Politics is just it's a damper on our country.
Yeah.
And I don't completely agree with either side of anything. I don't agree with one party or the other. I think they both have horrible ideas. I think they both have some great ideas. But the problem is none of them want to bend and compromise for the better of the country.
Yeah.
They just want it their way or no way.
Right.
And that's not better for the country. The better for the country is, like, I don't know, I'll give you an example that the whole abortion right thing. The hardcore Republicans who don't want any abortions ever are stuck to that idea, and they're really hurting themselves.
Yeah.
If they made some kind of deal, if you want an abortion, you got to go through 2 hours of therapy first.
Yeah.
And then you can go do it. Well, they might save 60% of the babies doing that, but that's not good enough. They have to save all of them. You know what I mean?
Right.
If you're going to save some kids, at least a percentage is better than none.
Yeah. Yeah. It does feel like a pissing contest. Like no side really wants to waver at all. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And every idea, every, issue that comes up, it's the same way. It's my way or no way. And that's not doing the country any good. We need some kind of compromise that benefits both sides, and the rest of us can get on with our lives. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Now, getting back to the album, I imagine, you know, it's here, it's out, it's a couple days old now. There will obviously be touring.
Oh, yeah.
And
We're working on,
when will touring be commencing? You know what I mean? Like, when would you guys plan on hitting the road?
we really don't have, the only thing we've got planned right now is 70,000 tons of metal in January.
Yeah.
We're working on some stuff. We've got new management and new agent, and they tell us they've got big things up ahead, but they won't tell us what it is yet. So I think they want to get everything concrete
Yeah.
and lined up and make it, you know, really good for the band. And they like to do everything all at once. They like to get all of the interviews in the press and just everything done before they even come to us with the idea, you know,
Yeah.
which is really kind of cool. So that's where we're at right now. We are kind of we're going to start rehearsing here pretty soon. We don't really know what for, because the 70,000 tons of metal, I think, is an old school set. So which is what we've been doing a lot lately.
Yeah.
But we are working on, you know, setting up rehearsal schedules and stuff to start doing a lot more of the last 3 records in our set.
Okay.
And that's going to be part of our attack whenever agents and managers finally tell us what's up and we go to do stuff. We'll at least have a couple of different set lists rehearsed and ready to go.
Now, I probably asked you this, and it's been about a year since the last time that I talked to you, but a year's a long time. Maybe the answer could have possibly changed. But, you know, touring as you get older. Now, you guys are like, you know, 40 years into your fucking career, man. You know what I mean? Obviously, it's not the same. It's different hitting the road than when you're in your 20s or whatever. But, you know, how long do you like to have, you know, what is the comfortable itinerary for everybody? Is it something you guys discuss as a band? How long do we want to go out for? Because I know me being 51 years old, you know, you start to like your creature comforts. I don't want to be away for a home for very long. I'm not a touring musician, obviously, man. But I mean, you know, there must be things that like you yearn for, you know, you want to be home more. Do you guys have a set amount of time that you guys like to go out for?
I think we're all different on that as far as preference.
Yeah.
You know, I would like to be out on the road 7-8 months a year, nonstop. I know a couple of the guys in the band would rather go out and do, you know, 2 weeks at a time and then come home and then go out for another 2 weeks and then come home. You know, I really am kind of a road dog when it comes to that. I love to be out on the road. I love doing shows every night. The last big US tour we did on our own, we did 40 shows in 44 days.
Wow.
And that's pretty much, you know, every night. So
yeah, that's no breaks right there. And you did boast, and deservedly so. You did boast the last time we talked, because I think I asked a lot of singers about this, about throat care and throat maintenance. And you boasted that you can just get out there any old fucking time you want and just blast it out, and it's never been an issue for you. You know, are you still that same fucking show off that you were before, Mr. Eric AK?
No.
And I had the tape to prove it. I did ask you about voice care, and you did say, "No, I've just been blessed. I can get up there and just fucking go."
No, I'm recovery time has slowed quite a bit in my old age. So,
yeah. Hey, I hear you, man.
You know, I can get up and jam and sing all night, no problem, no warm-ups, no, you know, special drinks, none of that. But the next night I'll have a little trouble. You know what I mean? So if I want to sing tomorrow, I have to take care of myself tonight, type of deal.
So that 40 shows and 44 nights, you know what I mean? Like that would be like where you would run into some possible problems.
That I cut my drinking in half. So
yeah. Something's got to give, right?
Something's got to give. You know, I'm only half a bottle of Jack Daniels a night instead of a full bottle. So
yeah. But I'm surprised you say that answer. You know, because a lot of times you can't even get young musicians to want to go out for 6 or 7 months out of the year. And you know, you obviously, as I mentioned, you know, you have been doing this a long time. You do have a family or whatever. You know, I mean, there probably are parts of a guy in your position who would like to be home. So the fact that you want to go out and be a road dog, I mean, it really speaks volumes as to, you know, how fucking hard you guys fucking work.
You know, I think it stems from tours in the past. I've had some really cool tour bus tours
Yeah.
In the past where we played every night, and it's some of the greatest, funnest memories of my life. So I
Yeah.
think that's where I just want to be on the road all the time
Yeah.
thing comes from out of my head. But you know, some of the other guys in the band are a little smarter than I am on that stuff.
Yeah.
They're just like, you're gonna burn yourself out if you do that shit, you know. So I think those guys are gonna win out on that need to tour constantly,
Yeah.
but it's probably for the best. So, you know, we'll end up doing 2 or 3 weeks here, 2 or 3 weeks there. Unless we're on a big tour, then we'll, as long as the tour's out, we'll stay out, you know.
And how does it work with like spouses? Like you're obviously you know, you keep together, you know, a long happy marriage or whatever. Is the wife happily helping you pack and happy to see you fucking go? Does she come out for some of the time? I mean, you know, how do you balance that and make it successful for musicians out there that might want to know, like, you know, if they go on tour a long time, they might come back and have no spouse.
I think I drive my wife so nuts that when tour comes around, she's like, "Yeah, I'm
Happy
helping you pack. Get the
happy to
hell
see you
out."
go. Yeah, I think that's how my
But
wife would be too if
you
I
know,
were a musician.
I've been with her for I don't know, since '94. No, since
Yeah,
'89. I've been with her.
yeah.
So you know, we pretty much have each other down. She learns how to enjoy when I'm not home. She really enjoys it when I am home. So I think it's just a compromise from both of us.
I just fucking celebrated just this past Thursday my 26th anniversary, and I don't know what I was thinking because the week before that, I must have lost track of the date because that day I had at least 2 podcast interviews scheduled, and I had to eat crow and reschedule them, and I had to tell my guests, look, if I want to remain happily married, I'm gonna have to move these. I'm gonna have to move these interviews around a little bit. I don't know what I was thinking.
Yeah,
Happy
we
wife, happy life. You know how that goes.
as men though, we are famous for not thinking about that shit.
Yeah,
So
I know. I know. And I see you guys still really enjoy the medium, and I think it is an important medium. When we used to watch videos, we obviously watched them on MTV, we watched them on our TVs. Now we're watching them on smaller screens, but you guys do still seem to like to make videos to go along with your songs. Why are bands at this stage, you know, the music business being what it is right now, you know, why are bands like still making it? Is it strictly like because it's a great promotional tool? It gets eyes on you guys?
that's part of it. A lot of it's ego. You like to see yourself on the screen, you know.
Sure.
I know for me, you know, before I had ever heard metal or was ever in a band, I was in theater my whole life, and um, that being seen by people is kind of inbred in me now. So
Yeah.
it's it's a very cool thing to come up with a concept for a video and then go film it, do all the work for it, and see the final product when it's all done. You're like, all right, it's not exactly what I was thinking, but it's really
Yeah.
cool, you know?
This is badass. Yeah.
So I don't know if it really does that much good anymore. Although we got a few 100,000 views
Yeah.
on each video, so maybe it does some good. I don't know.
And now you probably get more views than back in the day when MTV had that luxury of being able to pick and choose when they showed your videos, and maybe it only got seen on Headbangers Ball, you know, I mean, a couple times a month. I mean, now at least you can look at it and see the fruits of your labor and say, you know, as you said, wow, 200,000 people have watched this video, you know?
Yeah. You know, I had the pleasure of being interviewed on MTV a few times back in the day. And one of my best memories was we were on the UK MTV being interviewed, and sitting right next to us was Joe Elliott from Def Leppard. And I was just like, this is the coolest thing ever. I'm not
Yeah.
only meeting Joe Elliott, I'm sitting right here with him, you know? So
Yeah.
those kind of memories you can't pay for. You know what I mean?
That is pretty
And
cool to hear. Like that is pretty cool to hear a guy who does what would be called extreme metal music. You know, what I mean, thrash metal, speed metal, whatever you want to call it, man. You know, be excited over, over because I remember back in the day, man. Remember, it was almost like those two worlds couldn't mix. You'd always see like the Metallicas of the world bagging on the Wingers and the Motley Crues and the Def Leppards of the world or whatever. So it's kind of cool that you geeked out over a band that wouldn't really be perceived like in the same wheelhouse as you, and obviously doesn't do the same thing that you do.
yeah, it's I'm kind of a fanboy when it comes to that stuff. I mean, I've met Dick Van Dyke a bunch of times, and I still get nervous and freak out every time I'm anywhere near him. And before we had one original song, when we were the Dogs, we were doing covers and the heaviest stuff we could find. We were doing Def Leppard and Twisted Sister and all that crap. So now when I meet one of those guys from from those bands, I'm just like, oh,
yeah,
I'm not worthy.
I may have asked you this the first time too, and again because it's been so long. But going back and chopping it up about your early beginnings, was there a specific album or an artist or a song that really put the spark in you to do music? Do you remember all the way back when who it was that first was like the catalyst to get you on the musical journey?
Originally it was probably Elton John.
Yeah.
Frank Sinatra. I've always been a huge Sinatra fan. As far as metal goes, it would have to be Iron Maiden, Judas Priest. I mean, that was the first time I ever heard metal. I went to go audition for the guys in the band, and they said, "Have you ever heard metal before?" And I'm like, "Nope." And they played a bunch of stuff with no vocals on it, just live. And the power from it really got to me. And then they gave me Unleashed in the East and Killers to take home and learn a few songs. And I've got the bug ever since then as far as metal goes.
So the guys literally gave you homework that night.
Yeah.
They set you home with homework.
I had this Levi vest that they told me that I was on a 2-week trial to see if I was going to work out or not. So Newstead grabbed a Sharpie and wrote 2 weaker on the back of my vest. So now I'm walking around everywhere being a tweaker.
Yeah.
And I still have the vest. The marker's worn off over the years, but I still have the same vest that I was wearing when I auditioned for them and when I did my first couple of shows with them.
What was the impact on you guys? What were you guys thinking, man, at the time when Jason Newsted comes in and tells you guys that he's going to Metallica? Obviously, you guys understand and realize he's your bro. This is an opportunity that is literally once in a lifetime or whatever. But were you guys able to maintain the morale of the band? Like you're certainly losing a big part of the creative process, the songwriting process, just a force of a guy in your band or whatever. Were there doubts? Were you guys looking at each other? Like was the morale kind of dipping down low, or did you kind of like rally and say, "Holy fuck, man, we're losing him, man, but we can do this. We're gonna kick this into high gear."
It was a lot of every direction. We were personally, we each felt like, oh man, I just got kicked in the teeth,
Yeah.
But in front of each other, we were like, all right, what are we going to do now? What's our next step? What's our, how do we capitalize on this? How can we, what do we need to do? And I don't think we really did anything the right way or the best way, but that drive to what's next, what are we going to do, who are we going to get, all that is what kind of shaded or shielded us from the hurt that we felt, that he was going to be this huge millionaire star and we're still in the garage, banging it away, hoping. That was a little hard to take, but the minute that we knuckled in and just went, you know what, now we need to get our name out there even more. We need to get a even better bass player. We need to, all this stuff. And that really kept us going, kept us from getting too depressed about it or too egoed out about it or, or hurt or whatever. And it really helped our relationship with Jason keep going. It helped the band. It helped pretty much everything we did, to just ignore the fact that our buddy who's been sleeping on our couches for a couple of years uh, just dropped us in the weeds and went off to make billions of dollars.
I know. Pretty correct.
It's
I know. That's
it's a
pretty
little hard
freaking.
to take. On the other hand, Jason was and still is a very good friend, and I'm super happy for him when it happened. So
Yeah.
we're battling all these emotions and all this stuff we have to do, and I think we kind of came out on the better end of it, in the end. So,
Or you guys just
you
could have
know,
packed up all your gear and just went with him and just said Metallica's now going to be a 10-piece.
right, we tried that.
Hey, we're going too. but as a huge lifelong Metallica fan, and how can you claim to be a metal fan and not be a Metallica fan? I love the years that Jason was in there, man. And that's not to disparage Robert Trujillo or at all, because he's picked up the pieces and done a nice job and gotten Metallica kind of gotten them to get their teeth back and be kind of the badass band again, man. But I was really upset when Jason left Metallica. Really upset, man. I thought for years, man, he was the one really keeping the grit in that band.
Yeah, he tried to explain to me a couple times why he did it and why it was so important to him, and I kind of agree with him, but at the same time, I don't think I'm ballsy enough to do that. I would not be able to just go, "Oh, biggest band in the world. Nah, I'm just gonna quit because you guys are fucking with me."
Yeah.
I don't.
The big decision.
He's got a lot of honor and a lot of pride,
Yeah.
and it's kind of a cool thing that he let the honor and pride win over his need for the fame and the money and the traveling the world. He let his honor and pride be more important than that.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, including myself, I don't think I could do it.
Yeah.
I think I'd be looking at all that money and all the fame and all the seeing every country on the planet several times and all that crap. I think that would win for me. And I give Jason a lot of credit for that.
Yeah. And by the way, man, just to pick up on something that you said earlier, man, you guys after he leaves, you're not sure if you're doing things right, but I mean, I will say, man, that you came back with in my opinion, another masterpiece. I mean, No Place for Disgrace is my all-time favorite album by you guys, man. So that's not too bad of a way to pick up the pieces in For John.
Yeah. That was a good record. I mean, there was, I think, one or two songs that Jason wrote that we didn't make it to Doomsday. And then the rest of it, we just kind of jumped on board and started writing. And they all came out pretty damn good. So.
And when you copped to being an Elton John fan, and I love Elton John too, is that where the cover from Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting comes on that album? How do covers get decided when you guys are going to do a cover? Is that one that you threw that suggestion out?
That was not my idea.
Okay.
I would have never thought of doing that. I think that was Kelly Smith, our original drummer, that came up with that idea. But we all had ideas that somebody just hated. Somebody in the band just went, I'm not doing that song. Screw that, And then somebody come up with 4 or 5 more ideas, and somebody in the band would just be, I'm not doing that one. I'm not doing that. Yeah. So this was the first time somebody came up with a cover tune, because we just wanted to do a cover for fun, And this was the first cover idea somebody came up with where nobody could say, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Everybody went, Elton John, Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting. We all just kind of looked at each other like,
yeah, we could make that metal. Yeah.
Wouldn't be my first choice, but nobody's scoffing at it, so let's do it,
And obviously, Elton John, one of the biggest stars in the world. But I'll still ask this question anyway. Does that song, or do you guys ever appear on his radar? Is there ever any feedback? Is he aware that you did this song? And have you ever heard from his camp or his management or anything? If he has an opinion on it one way or another?
I heard through the grapevine from one person or another, somebody who's talking to him, an interviewer or something, and that he has heard it, but I think he kind of laughed or scoffed at it and went on with the rest of the interview. But
okay.
I think he has heard it, and I'm sure he's I don't know. I'm sure he's kind of happy that people are jumping on his song and just going, "Hey, this thing's
Yeah.
cool. Let's turn it into this."
And one thing I like, and this seemed like it happened around COVID. It seemed like there was such an influx of music on the streaming platforms. I talk about this on here all the time, and it seemed like people were really hyper creative around COVID. Obviously, they couldn't go out and do live shows or whatever, but we were seeing a lot of artists. Almost seemed like there was an urgency, like people were afraid to be forgotten about. We got to stay on people's minds. We got to stay on people's lips. A lot of singles, a lot of EPs. But you guys here, 11 tracks, a 47-minute album, man. Is that the right template for Flotsam and Jetsam? You guys will always be full-length albums, right?
Yeah, I think that's kind of inbred in us, So we're so old. Everything we've ever done has been full-length albums. Everything we've ever bought from the record store has been full-length albums. So
yeah,
it's just kind of, I don't know. We would probably actually make some money and be better off if we did things the new way, single at a time, online only type of stuff. But it's just not us. A lot of our fans are our age and they like to have physical product in their hand. They like to read the liner notes. They like to, they like to see all the photos in the booklet, all that stuff. And that seems like, like 60% of the fun of getting a new record,
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. I would say that too. And and a lot of times, man, like when you used to get those albums and open up those gatefolds or on cassette tapes, you got informed too, because you'd see who the band was thanking and what bands they were thanking. Like that turned me on to a lot of bands by seeing, who guys would be thanking in the liner notes with going out on tour with, or with being in some kind of involvement with,
Right.
It helped a lot.
Yeah, that's I always at this point, last few records, I always just thank my wife and family um and the fan forum people and anybody else who's my friend, and just leave it short. That's it.
I feel like you're such an old school guy, man, that when you actually get some time to relax and as a fan get to listen to music, and I mean, maybe I'm wrong about this, doing the podcast has helped me leaps and bounds with this. I'm a guy that if I'm going to go listen to music, I lean back on my old staples, and it's very hard for me to go find, new music and new bands to get excited about. Are you kind of that same way too?
It seems to me like every time I try to go listen to some new bands, I'm just kind of disappointed. So I always go back to the the stuff that got me there to begin with.
Yeah.
I just got a new phone not too long ago, and I wanted to go through and load a bunch of music in there. And right now, I think I've got one Metallica record in there, and Screaming for Vengeance, and Peace of Mind, and that's
Yeah.
it. And a couple of off songs from here and there, but that's it. That's crap that I've always listened to since I was a teenager. I'm still listening to the same crap.
Well, you got to be careful. Sometimes Bono will try to make you fucking, you don't have to have one of his albums. You know what I mean? Like automatically put it on your phone like they did several years ago. Remember, you just had to have the new U2 album. You were getting it whether you wanted it or not.
Yep. I was deleting like crazy. Just delete.
So sports is such a big part of Arizona where you're from. Are you somebody that follows sports, or could you not even give a shit?
I'm a big Arizona Cardinals fan.
Okay.
I try to keep up with the Diamondbacks baseball once in a while. I've been to a few hockey games here.
You've sang at a few, haven't you?
I sang at a Dallas Stars Blackhawks game in Dallas once. Sang
You
the
did the
national
anthem, didn't you?
Yeah.
Everybody always says the anthem is one of the most difficult songs, and I'm not a singer like myself, man, but you being such a great and gifted technical singer, is the national anthem a difficult song to sing?
It's extremely difficult. And because it goes from a comfortable range, a comfortable note, to this high stuff, all of a sudden it goes right back to comfort. And just when you get your throat in that mode, it goes right back high again.
Yeah.
And it's really a hard thing to do clean and comfortably. Almost everybody screws it up. Just the greats don't. I screwed it up when I did it. Very first high note, nothing came out. I just sunk my head and started shaking, and the whole crowd laughed at me, and then I finished it off great. So it was kind of a fun moment for everybody there, including me.
Now, who's the first person that really notices, or the first time in your life when someone realized that you can legitimately carry a tune and sing? Because before you came on here, in my little preamble, I was talking to about extreme metal music and how you get your barkers, you get your growlers, you get your screechers, you get your squallerers. I don't even know if it's a word, but I said it on the preamble, so it is now. But you are really somebody that I consider a good technically gifted singer. I mean, when do you discover you have that gift? In school, music class, singing around the house?
I did my first show, or I sang my first solo, Christmas pageant. I was in kindergarten, 500 people. I sang All I Want for Christmas Is My Two Front Teeth, all by myself, no music, no nothing. Spotlight on me. The place went nuts, and I've had the bug of singing and being in front of people ever since then.
Yeah.
But I did a lot of musical theater growing up, a lot of choruses in schools and crap like that, and that's where I learned the professionalism of singing and what you're supposed to do, what you're not supposed to do. The best ways of using your throat and how not to use your throat. I don't always follow that crap, but that's when I learned it all. So I've known all that shit forever. And when it came to metal, first 3 records at least, I sounded like a 12-year-old girl when I sang. So right after the third record, I blew out one of my vocal cords. Excuse me. And it made it even worse. I sounded even more like a little clean little voiced girl. So I
Yeah.
started smoking and drinking so I can get my ballsy voice out of it. And it worked. Now I can't do that anymore, but my throat's so old and destroyed now it doesn't matter. I'm
Well,
I'm
this
gonna
might
get
be
some
useful
ballsy
advice
tunes out
for.
of
I
it.
mean, this could be useful advice for these young up and coming rock singers, man. So they're hearing it straight from Eric AK. Start your smoking, start your drinking early.
If you sound like a 12-year-old girl,
If
then
you
yeah,
sound like
maybe.
you're right, yeah. If you sound, yeah. Let's put that caveat in there because maybe you already have a badass voice and you don't even, you could totally avoid all that.
Yeah, you could really screw up a good thing if you start smoking and drinking.
I don't know if there's a correlation between this, but like obviously there's been amazing, the Bay Area thrash scene, amazing in California. There's a great death metal scene down in Tampa, Florida. Pantera, some great bands out of Texas. Crowbar, I Hate God, Down, some great stuff out of New Orleans. All these states, hot weather states. Maybe there's a correlation between good aggressive music and warm weather. These states also, oddly enough, the ones with the most serial killers as well.
Yeah, I think those are very closely related.
Yeah, heat.
Um, it's much easier to sing in warmth than it is in cold. I know
Yeah,
that. It's kind of the opposite for guitars, I think. If you get a guitar too hot, the thing will start warping and
yeah.
changing keys on you.
Obviously, serial killers seem to like it hot though.
Serial killers like it
Yeah,
hot. They
yeah,
I think it's the whole, sweating while you're killing somebody thing.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just I'm just guessing. I've never
It's a
actually
whole,
killed
yeah.
somebody.
And so we know that the big four is Metallica, Megadeth, Anthrax, and Slayer, and that was really based on not so much the talent, I don't think necessarily, but as much as like the commercial success and the notoriety that those bands, all achieved, man. But if you could wipe them off the board, and of course, your own band included as well, who would be the next big four in your mind if those four weren't involved?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Um, I'm kind of a love of singers, so some of the bands that most people would pick to be the big four without the big four in the way. I don't think it would be the same people that I would pick. I would probably pick.
Right, purely
Uh,
subjective. This is just your opinion, of course.
well, that's a tough one. Death Angel being there, I think. I
Yeah,
really like Mark Agueso's voice.
yeah,
He's pretty ballsy.
yeah.
but it can actually sing too. I think Queensryche would have to be in there.
Yeah.
One of the better singers in all of rock and metal,
Yeah.
two of them actually, because
Yeah.
Todd La Torre's amazing also.
Yeah.
Um, geez, that's
Blitz? Do we put Blitz in there and Overkill?
no.
No.
Well, here's what I like about Blitz. In my opinion, the guy has got a horrible voice.
Yeah.
Horrible sounding voice. But he really knows how to use it.
Yeah.
And he's one of the best frontmen in the entire business.
Yeah.
He can get a crowd going like nobody's business. And he's a super nice guy too on top of it.
Yeah.
So even though I hate the sound of his voice, I love the way he uses it. I love the way he sings stuff, the way he places things into a song. I really love him as a frontman. If I could learn half of what he knows about being a frontman, we'd be twice as big as we are. But
what is the secret to front manning that you see in him that you really admire? Like what is it specifically? Like what are the traits that you're looking at him and saying, you as the front man that you are looking at him and saying, I wish I could absorb those.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what it is, but for a guy that's had such a horrible voice, he has everybody in that room paying attention to everything he does the entire time.
Yeah.
And that is kind of a magic that's not, it's not natural. You have to learn that. You have to know it. You have to, study it. And I just feel like I'm not comfortable enough with myself to be that good of a frontman. I've gotten much better over the years, but still there are times when I'm up there just going, okay, if you open your mouth, you're going to say something stupid. So just shut up, get on to the next song.
Yeah.
That's the thought that's in my head all the time. I'm so afraid of saying something dumb or something idiotic that half the crowd's not going to agree with, and I just lost half my fans because I opened my stupid mouth.
Maybe
So
the
I try to just,
serendipitous, maybe the serendipitous part of my whole podcast will maybe be getting Blitz on here someday and saying that he wishes that he had your singing voice.
That
would bring it all
I know
full
Blitz
circle.
pretty good. He's pretty happy with himself. So
Yeah. Well, they're another band that's been extremely consistent though, too, man. There's just no letting off there's no letting off the gas with those guys. I mean, and they're even you guys are 15 albums in, which is crazy prolific. Those guys are, I think, just hit like 20.
Yeah, they're great songwriters, those guys. And like I said, the live performance of them, their albums could be worse than they are, and they'd still sell a bunch just because people have such a good time at their shows,
Yeah.
But luckily for them, they're good writers, and their albums are actually really cool. So it kind of goes hand in hand with the live show stuff.
Now, do you feel like 15 albums in that there's still like a wealth of stuff to draw from, or do you feel like the creative process is a little more stalled or a little more slower, or are ideas coming just as fast as they always did?
Faster than they ever have.
Faster.
Yeah. I've got a computer full of songs that didn't make it to the last 3 records. Sometimes we take bits and pieces out of them to write a song, or sometimes we don't. But I could start working on these and have 2 more albums worth of crap in the next couple of months, I'm sure.
And where's the creativity come from? Like, I might have asked you about your process before, but do you personally, not when you're with the band, have your own process? Are you a guy who has to isolate to write? I get a lot of guys who come on here and say that they get a lot of great ideas in the car. The car's a big trigger point. I know I talked to you once and you were out in the field, you were doing some working and stuff. Are ideas just coming to you all day long?
It's always better for me be sitting in my little studio room here all by myself.
Yeah.
Because I can come up with dumb ideas and 5 minutes later go, okay, that was dumb, and erase it and go on to the next thing. Where if I had a bunch of people around or something, I might be a little more intimidated. I don't know why I get so intimidated with my thoughts, but I really do. So, I write stuff. Sometimes I write stuff 10 times over before I'm happy with it. Sometimes the very first thing I pop out is awesome, and I'm just like, okay, cool, I'm done with that one. So it's really kind of a bump into walls in the dark kind of a process of writing for me.
It's really fascinating too, man. You know, having had the first time you were on the podcast, where we sat and chopped it up for fucking damn near 2 hours. I look back at that episode, and it just seems that somebody that's been doing it for as long as you. You know, I hope young musicians, you know, I mean, really will pay their dues and really work on honing their craft, because to hear you be 4 decades into it and say these things about yourself. I find it fascinating. I mean, not being sometimes always comfortable in your own band. I think that's great for young musicians to hear that, because you are really the sole static member of Flotsam and Jetsam. I mean, it really is now really your band now. I mean, I know all the other guys, and a lot of them have been there very long, and Michael and everything or whatever. But I mean, you know, to hear you have that kind of uncomfortableness and be able to embrace it and like address it is mind blowing to me.
You know, it all comes down to what's the most important thing. And for me, the most important thing, I think, is that I love to do it. I love to tour. I really love to write. Um, I love listening to my own albums, my own music.
Yeah.
You know, and that makes up for any kind of uncomfortableness, ego, lack of ego, whatever. And it makes up for all of it. You know, I can, just like touring, most of the day on a normal tour is 20 hours of pure hell or crap or just stuff you would never do. But the hour and a half, 2 hours you're on stage makes all of it worth it. And that's kind of what you look forward to each day. I've got to get to that 2 hours on stage, because that's what makes all this crap worth it, you know?
Right.
And it's the same thing with putting out records, or, you know, sticking with the band or sticking with the industry. And there's tiny little things that make it worth it, but they're so cool that you could put up with a lot more than you do. You know what I mean?
Right. And so you talk about like enjoying writing, and I know your answer to this might be humble, and you might say, you know, in your mind, maybe you didn't achieve enough for it to be an interesting topic. But I mean, I'm always locked into rock biographies. Would there ever be an Eric AK book possibly someday, or is that not a creative platform that you like? I mean, you know, we see so many rock star, you know, biographies, memoirs, call them what you will. You know, I mean, you know, certainly people, huge stars have written them, and there's even been musicians that are not so big, and you wonder, somebody really wants to read their fucking memoir, but there's somebody out there that wants to.
You never know when somebody's going to read some no-name band guy's memoir, and the guy happens to be a big movie producer and thinks it's a great idea for a film. You know, you never know what that crap's going to happen. But I've been working on a book very lacklusterly for about 5-6 years now, and I don't do it very often. I go over to another writer's house, and I just start telling stories about, you know, the career and tours and blah blah blah. And they've been writing this stuff down and trying to put it in order, and we're gonna eventually put some kind of book out with it. But you know, I think another few years, I'm not going to really care what I say in a book, and it'll make the book a lot better. You know?
Yeah.
Right now, there's people I don't want to hurt. There's people I don't want to bad talk. There's just, I just hate doing that crap. But I think, you know, another 10 years from now, I'll be that crouchy old man who doesn't give a shit what anybody thinks, and it's all coming out in the book.
The filter's gone. Yeah, the filter's completely gone. Now,
exactly.
Now, you fact-checked me on that, and I'll fact-check later on about that whole thing, like about the lineup. But as I mentioned earlier, this has been a great lineup that's really kicked ass now for over several albums, man. What's the camaraderie like with these guys? I mean, you guys really, really seem like, you know, especially these last couple of albums. I'm thinking of, you know, Blood in the Water, and I mean, these last couple albums have been really fucking amazing, man. It seems like, you know, this is a potent lineup right here.
Yeah, we've one of the biggest things for us is, can we tour together? We've been on so many tours where two of the members just hate each other, or they're fighting, or something's going on all the time. And this lineup, we actually like hanging out with each other. We joke around with each other. There's a lot of respect going on. And, you know, in our younger days, we didn't have any of that crap. You didn't know what the hell respect was.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And we are all veterans of the business now, and we all respect each other for that fact and for stuff we've put out. And I think it makes a huge difference. You know, if you don't respect somebody because of their views or because of something, it makes life a whole living hell to actually spend most of your year with, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know, like Ken and I have completely different personalities. Um, you know, he's a very religious guy. He's very a little bit prim and proper, kind of. You
Yep.
know, I'm more of a, you know, a guy who likes to drink and smoke and women chase and
Yep.
whatever. You know,
You're a little rough around the edges.
I chase, I don't catch. But
Yeah, you better make sure your wife's not back there somewhere. But you better be careful. Then I make sure I come up in the studio and shut and lock the door, and she's nowhere within earshot from the stuff I say up here.
she knows I'm harmless and nobody wants me, so
Yeah, me too.
she really just laughs at me most of the time. But the whole, I look at his history and his career and some of the stuff he's done. I'm just like, whoa, dude, that is the coolest thing ever. And
Yeah.
a whole new level of respect for the guy. You know,
Yeah.
me and Mike have been in this band forever together, except for a while when he quit. But I have tons of respect for him. Some of the songs that he's written over the years
Yeah.
are some of my favorite songs on the planet. So, you know, I've got tons of respect for him on that. Steve Conley's been writing songs for other bands forever. He was in F5 with Dave Jr. You
Yep.
know, he's got quite a career too. Bill Bodley is not only a great bass player, but he's one of the coolest dudes you'd ever want to hang out with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's a little spooky sometimes. He looks at you, say something dumb to him, he'll look at you like, I'm going to add you to the other heads I have in my freezer.
Yeah.
But but he's
Nothing more metal than that.
yeah, he's super cool guy to hang out with and a great bass player. So you know, he's done a lot of fill-in stuff and a lot of small parts in bands over his career too that are really, you know, he was in Toxic. He's in this Contrarian band right now that he's doing too, and it's really cool stuff. So I got a lot of respect for that guy too. And he wrote some stuff for this record that was just kind of too late coming in. We were
Yeah.
pretty much running out of time, and we already had the record, you know, written. We were just kind of spicing things up a little bit. And he came up with some stuff. We're just like, okay, we're not going to put this on the record because it's too late, but this is definitely going on the next one. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
So he's written some cool stuff too that we're kind of excited to see what he comes up with for the next one too.
Now, obviously, this album is only a couple days old or whatever, and obviously there's a touring cycle behind it and promotion, all that stuff. But what's the timetable nowadays on like when Flotsam and Jetsam likes to be putting out? Like, you know, is there a right answer? You know, for you guys, like I said earlier, around COVID time, we were getting flooded with singles and EPs, and everybody just wanted to be. And I realized probably some of that was not being able to be on the road. But so this one's 2024. The last one was 2021. Is 3 years a good number for you guys in between albums? That's a workable timetable.
I think we'd rather do two, but
Yeah.
if it's been 3 hours because we're out busy pushing the record and touring, that's fine with us too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think every 2 years is a good mark for putting out another record. Lately, it's been every 2 years we start working on the next record instead
Right.
of putting one out. So it's, you know, almost 3 years for the last couple records, but you know, there really is no method to it.
Right.
The only weird thing is that you used to put out a record and it could be selling and charting or whatever for years. And now our record just came out 3 days ago. It's probably dead already.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
3
the way
days
it is
is,
nowadays. Yeah.
yeah, people's attention span is 30 seconds long. So,
Yeah. I know.
that, you know, we work all this time writing and writing and recording and rewriting and recording and sending it to the producer and getting back this masterpiece you think is going to be great. And, you know, a month goes by after it comes out, and
It's everybody's favorite album for a day until
right,
until they find something the next day, right? Yeah, and then they
right.
say there's that, and then people don't really explore the deep tracks. You know what I mean? They don't listen to them the way they were intended to be listened to. You know, back when we were younger, where I almost think every album was a conceptual concept album because you know there was thought in between, like you know the sequencing of the songs, and you had to listen to it from start to finish. You couldn't just skip around an album like The Wall. It just wasn't meant to be listened to that way. You know?
Well, yeah, not only that, but the coolest thing about getting a new record was you go into your bedroom, put the headphones on, smoke half a joint, and close
Yeah,
your eyes and listen to the thing. You know,
yeah.
that was the coolest part about somebody's new record come out.
It was a journey.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and people just don't do that anymore. You know, they
No.
can't stay off their phone long enough to listen to a whole album. So,
I've been trying to be better about that too. Outside of like inviting guests and conversing with people on Facebook Messenger, I'm really trying to, and I'm trying to do it, encourage it with my wife too, is just to, you know, really find time to, I guess for lack of a better word, unplug or like detach, you know what I mean? Like for like, you know, certain parts of the day and find like other outlets, you know what I mean? Fucking pick up a book or, you know, actually do something like other than, you can really get lost in it. I mean, you know, the dangers of the technology are real. I remember even like a band that was on the forefront of really kind of warning us about these dangers was like a band like Voivod back in the day. Their early albums, they were almost like prophetic when they were telling us about, you know, it was a little extreme, but like robots and technology really like moving in on humanity. And now here we are, you know, 40 years after those albums come out, and you know, it's happening.
yeah, yeah. And back then we looked at them like, okay, you guys you took a couple too many mushrooms,
Yeah,
and
right.
you're writing lyrics, you know.
Yeah,
But now you look back on it going, oh, I guess we should have listened to them. You
yeah.
know.
Now, obviously, we see bands like the Rolling Stones, you know, still getting up there, damn near 80 years old, man, or whatever, you know, and still kicking ass. And then you see artists who will say, God, I don't want, what am I going to look like if I'm still climbing up on a stage in my 70s or 80s or whatever? You know, have you guys ever thought as a band or even you personally about, is there a stop date like for you personally as a performer? Not that we, the fans, want you going anywhere. And I think there's a lot of, obviously, just going on like the material you're putting on now, still plenty of kick ass FLOTSAM and JETSAM music to come or whatever. But is it something in the back of your mind you've ever thought, geez, I don't want to still be going out on tour, getting up on a stage when I'm, you know, this age?
You know, my thing is that you know, I like I said, I used to be able to sing anything, anytime, in any range, in any key, and do it on the spur of the moment, and no problem. And you know, as I got older, I can still sound the same, but it's a
Right.
whole hell of a lot more work, you know.
Yeah.
It's a lot more work on my throat, on my gut muscles, on everything, on my brain. It gets more and more work to sound exactly the same that when it was no work, you know.
Right.
And eventually, I won't be able to do it no matter how hard it is. Eventually, it will just, my throat will just not physically be able to do the stuff that I'm doing now. And
Yeah.
I think that's when I will give it up. I'm not going to dock it out and you know, I can't sing anymore, but I'm, you know, if you don't
Well,
want to
Frankie
listen to
Valli, I
it,
mean,
then go buy a ticket.
Frankie Valli's in his 90s and still sounds pretty good, but you've also really blown yours out and done a totally different style of music than a Frankie Valli, though, too.
Yeah, I ripped a vocal cord, you know,
You
back in
know,
the
I mean,
day, which is still damaged. And um, I don't see myself being Frankie Valli's age, still doing Flotsam songs, still singing "No Place for Disgrace." You know, that one, that's a tough song to sing.
yeah, yeah, and so as of right now, just to keep the fans up to speed, though, man, you keep checking the site, but there's nothing up there right now in terms of tour dates. But you expect there to be like FLOTSAM and JETSAM tour news in the next ensuing weeks, months.
I would imagine they're putting us in an opening slot, direct support for somebody bigger than us.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that's what they're going for. Um, I have no idea who that is or you know who they're talking to or anything like that, but I'm pretty sure that's what they want to do. Anybody can do a headline tour anytime they want. It's a matter of timing and going at the right times and making sure, you know, there's not other tours going to be at the same city with you every night, that kind of crap. But headline tours are just semantics. But if you're on an opening, somebody else's headline tour opening, life is so much easier and you get the same new fan benefit.
Yeah.
As, you know, actually more new fan benefit than if you go out by yourself.
Yeah.
So we, you know, the Megadeth tours we did gave us more fans than any other tour we've ever done, you know.
Yeah.
We've been on, I've probably done 200 shows with Megadeth and probably another 90 with King Diamond. That was another one that got us a lot of fans.
Yeah.
You know,
Now
and
there's
these were back in the day.
there's a guy that can sing. There's a guy that can sing.
He's got a completely different type of voice from anybody else on the planet, and he is probably the nicest guy I've ever met in the industry.
For a Satanist, even for a Satanist, a nice guy.
Oh, he's a super nice guy, and every time I've seen him since I've toured with him, he's, you know, he comes up, gives me a big hug. Hey, Kay, how's it going? You know,
Yeah.
He's just, I mean, we did the whole Them tour for the Them album.
Yeah.
And
incredible
every
album.
guy in that band was just super amazing, no ego, kind of super nice guy, you know. And still to this day, I see one of them and they'd come up and remember me and give me a big hug. And no, you know, it's that's the kind of bands that I like to listen to, that I like to follow. And, you know, you get somebody with a bunch of ego problems, like we just watched the video the other day of Farrell
Perry
and Navarro.
Perry and Perry and Dave going at it.
Getting into it, and I'm just like, okay, is it alcohol? Is it ego? Why are you guys doing that? And that's the most unprofessional thing ever, and fans don't want to see that shit, you know.
And then of course you got the Oasis brothers getting back together. You never know how that'll end up going either.
Huh? Oh,
you might see more feuding on stage, you know, somewhere down the road between those two. Well, I hope whatever the tour is, we somehow swing through upstate New York. I've had 2 back surgeries, so it gets increasingly hard for me to want to get into a car and sit for a long time. I will do it though, man, to come see amazing bands, man. But if not, then I'm just gonna have to PayPal you some money and get you to come play in my fucking backyard. I don't know how else I'm gonna get it done.
You know, Overkill invites us to go do some one-off shows with them on the East Coast all the time, and it just doesn't financially make sense for us. But we'd love to do it. You know, it's a great part of the world to play in. Fans are great. All the East Coast bands are amazing. So it's just really it's too bad that we don't make enough money to make it worth it to go there more often.
No, I've heard other guys come on here and say that too. As a matter of fact, I just had a couple weeks ago, I just had Craig Lassissar on from Forbidden. And he even said too, people are going to be upset. We're working on new Forbidden music, but we can't come and play fucking, you know, Des Moines, Iowa, or we might not get to every town where people want to see us. They have to pick their spots a little more, you know, do the festival thing, or like appear more like in regions. And there might be a little bit of traveling involved if you want to get there to see them. I mean, it's hard to sweep through now. I imagine, you know, like going on like, you know, 80, 100 city tours, you know, I mean.
Yeah, it's
not feasible.
At this point, you got to kind of do markets, you know. You do the Northwest market, you do Oregon and the top of California, and you go go into Boise and, you know, that whole area up there, and you go do a couple weeks up there, maybe hit a couple Canadian shows, and then you got to go home and lick your wounds and save up enough money to go do the Southwest portion of the US. You know, there's not a lot of money out there promoter wise and fan wise to just keep going and going and going and going and going.
Yeah, it's difficult.
Which is what I love to do. But
people got to go out and see their live bands, and they got to fucking pick up some merch while they're there, man. It's vital nowadays. It is.
Yeah. And you really got to plan things out to where you're not like following a Megadeth tour around. So you play the next night after they just played. Nobody's going to come see you. They don't have the money for it.
Right. Everybody already went and got their 3 Megadeth T-shirts, and they're they're all out of money.
Exactly. And if you're not selling merch, you're not going to stay out on the road for very long. That's gas money there. So
yeah. Well, as always, Eric, man, I've kept you over an hour again, man. I always love chopping it up and talking with you, man. I love this album, man. Man, I'm such a huge fan. I've had you and Michael on before. I love what you guys do, man. I'll always be a fan, man. I'm happy that this album is out, man. It's fucking kicking ass, dude, man. And I'm happy for you guys. I'm happy to see you guys all doing well, and hopefully I'll get to a show.
Oh, thank you so much, brother.
Yeah. I love what you guys do, man. I love what you guys do. And even though you made, you're a humble guy, you may disagree. But again, before you came in here, I was saying unjustly sometimes I feel like, in the pantheon of the great thrash metal bands, and that's kind of where I place you guys. I feel like sometimes you guys unjustly don't get mentioned as much as the Exoduses and the Testaments and the Creators. And you guys are every bit there, though, man, in my mind, man. I always implore people to give you guys a listen, especially if you like your thrash, with good singing. There are people that like those dirtied up vocals and they like their gruff, their Cookie Monster vocals and their scratchy vocals or whatever. But it is nice sometimes to hear guys like you, like Joey from Anthrax, guys that can really sing.
Yeah, it kind of bothers me a tiny bit. You get those Facebook posts, hey, who's the greatest metal singer ever? And they list all these bands, and I'm never on the list.
I know.
And I'm just like, well, I've been 43 years doing this thing. I mean, why'd you guys leave me off,
Come on, people. Really don't review here, man. What have we learned? Why is this guy not on the list? He doesn't have to, at least he didn't have to fucking warm up. He's badass enough to just go up there and do it. and he still can go around 40 years later and make the claim that he's on the only 6K Kerrang fucking album. No one else has done that. I don't see any of those people on that list with 6 Kerrang albums, man, that were as badass as Doomsday for the Deceiver. All kidding aside, though, when you look back at an album like that, and I don't use the word on here very often, man. I used it for Craig the other day because I thought the Forbidden Evil album was one of those albums, but seminal albums, important albums in that scene. Are you able to look back and say, because you did say you enjoy listening to your own music, Doomsday for the Deceiver is one of those albums?
Yeah, I don't listen to it very often.
Seminal.
The production bugs me a little bit, but it was 40 years ago. So the production just wasn't that good back then. No Place is the same way. I think the vocals are way too low. When the Storm Comes Down is the worst production on a record ever. Yeah. So that one is really hard for me to listen to. Just production-wise, though. I love the songs off of those 3 albums. Love them. I love playing them live. We do better production live than we did recording those records. So it's I really love the songs. I love that whole era of our career. It's just a production that's hard for me to listen to. It's just like it sounds like toy guitars and CV700 drums, and I'm just like
But as a guy who is a good technical singer, though, but before I let you go, because this is something that's been under the microscope for the last couple of years, and it is sad. I was just talking about this some other day, how now when people go see live music, instead of having their lighters out or nothing at all and just enjoying the moment, everybody's out now and they're a critic with their cell phone out and they're trying to, it seems like, almost catch you fucking up or making a mistake or using some kind of a trick or whatever. Like these legendary bands like a Motley Crue or a Kiss, especially, that have been taking like a whipping for beefing up their sound. And again, I'm not a behind the scenes guy or a tech kind of guy or whatever, but you hear the word backing tracks a lot, or that Nikki Sixx hasn't touched his bass in fucking years. He just looks like he's playing or whatever. If you go see a performance like a band as legendary as Kiss, I know the performance is great. There's pyro, there's fire. It's kind of the Kiss experience, but do you care though, technically, if they're using smoke and mirror tricks, or if you went to see a band live, do you want to see it warts and all, even the fuck ups, and like, you're okay with walking away and saying, hey, you know what? They weren't that good, but at least they were authentically given, obviously they can't replicate what they did 40 years ago, but
there's 2 books of thought on that. As far as being able to perform things the same way it was recorded or sound the same as recorded, naturally is a really ballsy thing, you know. If you can do harmony backgrounds and all that stuff all live the same way you did in the studio, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Really cool. You know,
Yeah.
that's true
Rare.
musicianship right there. And a lot of people have that thing in their mind that if you have to use something recorded, that's cheating and blah. No, the end of the goal is entertainment. We're in the entertainment industry. If you go see a show, whether everything's recorded and they're lip syncing, whether if you are entertained and you had a good time, they did their job.
Yeah.
So, you know, on one end, there are bands out there that, yeah, maybe they screw up a little bit live, but they're doing everything live. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
And you got to just go, that's really freaking cool, you know?
Right.
Yeah, maybe the guy sang off key a little bit or something, or, you know, he screwed up some words, but they didn't do any recordings. They didn't do any taping. They didn't, you know, none of that crap. And on the other hand, if you came out of a place just going, I know there were some backing tracks, but that was like watching the band live play
Yeah.
the actual album because it sounded so great, you know.
Yeah.
That's it. Entertainment is the end goal in all of it. It's the
Yes,
end
it
goal is
is.
not did you do it right live, did you do this, did you do that. The end goal is were you entertained.
And it's
And if you were
it's an unfair presumption too to walk away from a concert and give that kind of a critical review and say, you know, that's not fair to walk away and say Paul Stanley doesn't sound like he did like he in 1977, because I defy anybody to be able to replicate what they did 40 years ago anyway. You know
right,
what I mean? You just
right,
can't do it. It's just not responsible criticism, you know, to make that, you know what I mean? You're damned if you do, damned if you don't, like you said about the two schools of thought. Either people walk away and say, I think I caught them in a bunch of tricks and I'm going to go home and write a terrible review, or you walk away from the show saying, man, they played, but they were fucking nowhere near as good as they used to be. You know what I mean? So either way, it almost seems like a band is it's a double-edged sword for them. They're going to get criticized one way or another.
right. You know, the bass player for my country band, for a while in the country band anyway, was also the bass player for Air Supply.
Wow.
And he said that he's done some shows in the last 10 years or whatever where everything was on tracks, and those guys had foot switches when they wanted to come in and actually play, or they
Yeah.
could turn the track on and just lip sync it or whatever.
Yeah.
Every instrument, every singer, everybody had everything on track. So if his hand started hurting or something, he could just stop playing and hit the track and just look like he's playing,
Right.
and he didn't have to worry about screwing it up. You know,
Like
that's
lip
that's a
like
little
lip
over
syncing
the
with your
top,
instruments. Like lip
right?
syncing with an instrument.
Right. But that's a little over the top when it comes to, you know,
Yeah.
adding. You know, it's one thing to add background vocals on a track because your guitar players can't play that part and sing a different part at the same time because it's almost impossible. You know,
Right.
I
Right.
do all the backgrounds in the studio, and I don't never think about can they sing this and play that nasty riff at the same time. I don't
Right.
think about that.
You just do what you do and just, you know,
Right.
fucking hope
So
that
when
you
it
fucking
comes
hope,
time for them to doing background vocals, I'm like, why aren't you guys singing? Like, I can't sing that
yeah.
like you just did and do this at the same time. You know, it's like, okay, well, maybe we should at least throw some backing tracks up so it, you know, it sounds a little more like the record. And we try to keep it way down in the mix so it's not real obvious or anything, but you know, it's just a little enhancement. It's just like for me, it's just like putting um delay or a bunch of reverb or something on my voice live. You put a
Yeah.
little backing track on there, it's the same
Right.
thing.
And now what? And now shout out the country band that you do. I know they're not your, you know, your primary gig like a Flotsam and Jetsam is, man. But like, what do you do? Play local around there for fun?
We did a little West Coast tour when the record first came out, and it was fun. I've got a lot of West Coast like cult following from people who came and saw us. It was a very fun thing to do. The record sounds like a demo, so I can't even listen to it hardly, but the songs are great.
What's the name of the project?
The AK Corral.
Okay, well, that's perfect. That's perfect.
And
Talk
the
about
reason
naming
why
it. I talk about naming a band. We talked about Flotsam and Jetsam earlier, man. That one practically writes itself.
the reason why I called it that was because really the only constant was going to be me,
Right.
and I was going to bring in all my metal friends to come play the country with me. So they were like the horses in the corral. So it
Yeah.
was like AK and the horses in the corral. So, and I had some really good. Most of it was my crew that played
Yeah.
on it,
Yeah. That's
but
cool.
you know, Andreas Kisser from Sepultura played on it. Um, there was a few names that were just people hanging out drinking with us. I'm just like, grab a guitar and record. You know, they're like, oh, okay.
That's funny that you say that because Sepultura is going out on their final. They're going out on their final tour.
Yeah.
They just started, and it's funny that you brought that up because Obituary and Agnostic Front, a New York hardcore band that I love, are going out with them. And I was going to say there's a little outlaw in everybody because Vinny Stigma, the guitar player at Agnostic Front, is about to do a country project called The Outlaw Vinny Stigma.
Nice.
There's a little
Nice.
rebel and a little country in everybody, man. It eventually gets you, even if you're the most extreme opposite genre of country. I think we all want to be everybody wants to be a little bit of a cowboy.
And I think the Cowboys want a little heaviness in their life because I've heard some of the new,
Yeah.
some of the new country stuff that's got some crunchy guitar in it here and there. And everybody's kind of leaning towards another genre here and there. It's all going to be one big soup eventually.
Yeah, it is. So listen, man, I'm glad we got a chance to do this, man. Thanks for taking the time, man. As always, man, we'll keep in touch. I know we're friends on Facebook, so before you guys go out on tour, or at some point, man, we'll catch up again, man. As soon as there's some big Flotsam and Jetsam news. Yeah.
Yeah. Anytime, man. It's
We'll
always
get
a
on here
good
talking
time
about it.
hanging out, rapping with you. So
Yeah, and by the way, man, you talk about Flotzilla, man. I had to remodel this whole thing because I was doing the music one, then I switched gears and I was doing a boxing podcast, co-hosting it with my son. So it looked like I was in a boxing ring, but my backdrop. So now I've just switched this back, and I think inspired by like the Charlies and the Eddies and the Flotzillas, man. I've named this guy Sludge.
nice.
Yeah, and he will be my there's a lot of great frontmen here. There's you, there's Diamond Dave, who I'm still convinced is my father, and there's the Freddie Mercury puppet. Obviously, you can see the teeth right there, right?
Oh yeah. That's sweet.
Freddie's one of the all-time greats too.
Oh, he's definitely. That was one of my first. It's my second big concert I ever saw was Queen in 1980.
Yeah.
And
now
I couldn't take my eyes off of him. He was just amazing.
Yeah, now you never see a performer like that, man. There's been so many one of a kinds that we were fortunate enough to see in our lifetime, and I see people online all the time saying, "When are we going to get the next Prince? When are we going to get the next Freddie Mercury? When are we going to?" I think we saw these people, and we're only going to see them once.
Those days are over.
They're over. Yeah, they really are. Over. Now, before I let you go, the hardest question I save for the night, sometimes it's the Mount Rushmore question where I ask you your four greatest artists of all time. You could answer that if you want, or I give you the Desert Island album. You're going to a desert island and you can only take one fucking album with you. Or you can give me the Mount Rushmore if you know your top four favorite artists of all time. Not the greatest ever, just your greatest.
My greatest of any genre?
Of any genre, just your four goats.
Michael Bublé.
Okay.
Iron Maiden.
All over the board. I love it.
Man, people are going to kill me for some of this, but Nickelback.
What's wrong with a little power pop?
I love Nickelback, man.
Nothing wrong with it.
Freaking love them. And I'm juggling between Sinatra and Tom Jones, but I'm probably going to go Sinatra.
And had you gone the other route, man, would you have a definitive Desert Island album if you could only bring one with you?
Wow. That would have to be Bublé in his greatest hits or something.
Keeps you calm. It keeps you, like when you listen to a guy like that's music, and it's such a polar opposite of what you create. Like, what is it about him specifically? Is it because it's that fucking counteracting of how much aggression you guys put in your music?
I think that's part of it. When I work on my own vehicles and stuff, and when I do that kind of crap, I put Buble on, and it keeps me calm. It keeps me even keeled. He's got that golden tone, which I really love and kind of used to thrive for.
Yeah.
Which I could never sound like him. He's got an amazing voice.
Yeah, he does.
There's just something about the songs he writes to that are his, that are super catchy, super pro, super, it's almost like Sinatra reincarnated kind of thing for me. And I'm a huge Sinatra fan. So I'm not really exactly sure, I can't pinpoint exactly why he would be my first choice, but I know I enjoy listening to him more than anything else.
I remember being a kid and me and all my friends being 14 or 15, and you're finding the heaviest stuff, and you're thinking, how heavy can we go? Oh my God, we found Obituary. Oh my God, now this Deicide is even eviler and more heavy. And then I find as I get older, man, I've kind of lost my ear for it. That's not to, disparage what those guys do or whatever. But as I get older, man, I don't want just like a wall of sound, man. You really appreciate melody, and about as heavy as I go is probably like some speed metal or thrash, man. But when I start to get back into like the really heavy stuff, man, you know what I mean? I guess it's a sign of getting fucking old.
Yeah.
I can only take it so heavy. And I have like really extreme metal guys on here that come on here, and I'll ask them that question, man. Hey, can music just be too heavy for the sake of being heavy, where it almost ceases to be enjoyable? Like where you just get like a wall of just like noise and frenetic guitar playing and blast beats or whatever. And it's hard sometimes to be driving along or cleaning your house and finding the enjoyment in that,
Right. Even when I make like mixtapes and stuff for cleaning the house and crap, I always listen to something when I'm cleaning the house or cleaning the car or doing whatever yard work. It's always a weird eclectic mix of
Yeah.
stuff,
Yeah.
Once in a while, I'll throw in some Slayer or something, or, I'll throw in a Destruction song or something. But
Yeah.
most of the time, it's like, okay, here's Maroon 5, here's Nickelback, here's Iron Maiden, here's, it's just a weird eclectic mix of crap.
Jesus Christ, man, I better fucking stop us before we get our metal cards fucking pulled, man. Blabbermouth and Metal Injection have grabbed some of my interviews in the past and put them up there, man. This could ruin everything we've worked for here, AK. Oh my God, they're gonna find out that you're a Buble and a fucking Nickelback fan. We may have blown it here.
Dude, I just did a Blabbermouth interview the other day, and I had to refrain from be careful about what I say,
Well, what's cool is that winds up being a good promotion thing for me, because I didn't even know that they even did that kind of stuff. There must be people out there that just scout like who you talk to. Because one day, a friend of mine from North Carolina who plays in a metal band down there, he sent me like a clip and he said, "Hey, check it out, man! Like they used like your interview." And what's cool about it is if they do say, "Oh, like recently." Eric AK told the SCUM podcast or whatever, they'll at least put a link to the episode down there. And I did notice legit spikes in my subscribers and views, though. So hats off to them, man. As long as they cite your work and they give you credit and they attach a link down there where people can find more shit, I mean,
what the hell?
I'm good with it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
all promotion is good promotion, I guess.
I really don't care on interviews at this point. I mean, I'd like to sell some copies of this record, sell a bunch of merch on tour. But as far as getting new fans or losing fans or whatever, I say whatever the hell I want. Nobody can really hurt me at this point.
There's no way to, and there's no way to obsess about it either, because there's no way you can just go on there and fight like social media and take everybody to task. I mean, everyone's got an opinion. You put up a video and 100,000 people watch it, man. You can't go run down the 5,000 that think it sucks. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
I mean,
I could hurt myself. I mean, I could go one way or the other, super hardcore political, and I'd lose half my fans, or I could be a hardcore racist or something and lose half my fans. But other people saying shit about me is really not going to hurt me at this point. I've been doing this for so long. I really don't think I'm going to get, I can get a little bit bigger, but I'm not going to get Metallica big ever,
Right.
I know that.
Right.
So it would be nice to get, at least not have to worry about paying my bills. But
that's always a nice point to get to.
Yeah. But other than that, I know I'm not going to, I'm not even going to be Ted Nugent big ever. So What
Well,
can you do?
more importantly, I just like having these interviews, man. Just because, especially after having done the boxing one, me and my son did 160 episodes of those, and before that, there was 175 episodes of these, and now I'm starting back back up again. But I just look back at just the amazing conversations I got to have with people whose work that I like. It's not about like, yeah, there are some supremely talented people on there that I talk to, and I would just look and think, it's really luck of the draw. Everybody with a microphone and a laptop nowadays is podcasting. You know what I mean? So everybody, it's just like music on the platforms. Everybody can't find your shit. But, I look at some extremely talented people that I've interviewed, and I think, God, I wish that episode had 100,000 views, because that person should be heard and should be known about. You know what I mean? But, it's just who finds their way there and what traffic finds their way there, scratch and claw.
It's all luck of the draw and timing. You just never know what's going to hit, what's not,
Yeah. Well, man, I appreciate you, man. Thanks so much, man. Stay in touch, man, and we'll definitely do this again. And if you're not coming upstate New York, then just, hit me up in the comment section, man, or send me a message and tell me how much I got to send PayPal to get Flots in the backyard.
Right. I'm in.
I appreciate you though, man. Thanks, and best of luck with the album, man. I love it, man, and I always love talking to you, man.
Right on, brother. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate you, man. Have a good one, brother.
We'll see ya
later. There he goes, folks. A fucking true legend in the metal world, in my opinion, man, and I think in the opinion of lots many. A super humble guy. Maybe it's not of his own opinion, man, but he should know that he is, in our minds, the metal community out here, a thrash metal legend. Eric, A.K., the lead singer for Flotsam and Jetsam, and I mean lead singer in every possible way, man. The guy can belt it out, man. Do go check out their new album, I Am the Weapon. Easily going to be the most badass title of any album. Already getting amazing reviews. Already people saying that it's, I saw some pretty good quotes. I wanted to share them with Eric and I forgot. Already the fucking standout speed metal, thrash metal album of the year. Which, hey, I mean, we're in September, so the year's fucking almost over. I mean, unless someone's going to come and blow our doors off, I don't know. Flotsam and Jetsam, quite possibly here, has put out the best fucking album of 2024. People might argue, take me to task in the comment section, whatever, but I'm also a fucking fan, so I love what they do. I love Eric's voice, so yeah, I mean, music is subjective. It's all opinion, man, but they are in my wheelhouse of what I like in terms of heaviness and clarity in the vocals and being able to hear them clearly, and it just fucking having teeth and fucking balls. And it also felt good to take a couple edibles doing that interview, man, and getting to talk to Eric, A.K., with a pretty good buzz on. That felt good too. Haven't done an episode with a buzz on in quite a while. So I hope you guys enjoyed that episode, man, as much as I did, man. You can go back and look at my first go around. I had AK on for 2 hours, and damn near had him on for an hour and a half here tonight, man. Always a good conversation with my man Eric, AK from Flotsam and Jetsam. Go check out. You guys have found your way here, so fucking figure it out on your computers. Go to Flotsam and Jetsam or whatever it is .com. They have a website. They're on the streaming platforms. Go find out where they're touring. If they're coming to a city near you, go get yourself some merch. Keep these amazing artists afloat and able to survive out there. Music business has changed, kids. It's changed. These guys aren't sitting on piles of money up in their ivory towers. Some of them never were, and some of them never will be, man. But still, we got to go out and, don't buy Metallica t-shirts. Buy Flotsam and Jetsam t-shirts. Metallica's already got a lot of money. Let's go out and check out some of those, that next tier. I don't want to sound insulted. That next tier of amazing thrash, man. Those bands are out there, too. The Sepulturas, the Exoduses, the Testaments, the Death Angels, Eric mentioned in there, the Overkills. The creators of the world, Destruction. There's just a lot of great thrash out there other than the big four. And I'm talking from back in that era. A couple of years ago, I saw the Bay Area Strikes Back tour. Death Angel, Exodus, Testament, still fucking smoking fucking on the stage, man. 1,000 times better than bands half their age. So the old timers still know how to do it. And I can say that because I'm 51 and I count myself amongst them, the old timers. So make sure to like and follow us on Facebook. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell on the channel. The Freddie Mercury puppet, that was one of his favorites. He likes guys that can actually sing. Obviously, man, he can, despite those teeth. still fucking belt it out, man. So thank you so much for tuning in, and make sure to like, subscribe, stay tapped in. This is where the cool kids come to chop it up with Uncle Rexx. So you know how I always end these things, folks. Remember, take it easy. Oh, let me thank one more time Eric AK from Flotsam and Jetsam, and remind you guys to take it easy and keep it sleazy.